So if you're watching this recording later, my name is Pam. I am one of the owners at Around the Table Yarns, and this is our Granny Square Club. This is class number 2 for the Oh My Goodness top. If you are just starting, not a problem. We had a lot of people just start this week. So we're going to be continuing this pattern through next month. So you've got plenty of time. I don't know anybody in here who finished all their granny squares from last time. So you are in the right spot. Let me just grab my notes here. So a couple of things. This pattern has been out for a while. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as we start making it, she does a pattern update. It's just the craziest thing. So if you bought it on Ravelry, which I think that was the only way you could do it, check to make sure that you are working from the updated pattern. As far as I can tell, the updates have to do with the joining of the squares, which we're going to talk about next month. So it doesn't change how you make the squares, doesn't change the beginning of the pattern, but I was actually going to start to talk about joining a little bit, but there was so much new information there that honestly, I just didn't have time to go through it. So we're going to put that off till next month, which is fine. It's not a race, but I do want to show you what it looks like here if you are new. So this is what the pattern looks like. Oh My Goodness by Little Golden Nook is what she goes by. Really cute top. So that was the first thing, is that there is a pattern update for this. Last month, we talked about going over the pattern and getting gauge and picking your yarn and your hook to make that work. And we went over square A and square B. There are 2 different versions of square A and square B, the basic granny square. There is one. So you have, for this pattern, you have a main color and contrast colors. I think most people picked anywhere 4, 5, 6 contrast colors. I think I have 6 contrast colors and a main color. My main color is the gray. And what this pattern does is it gives you granny square, the full granny square A, which starts round 1 and 2 are the same contrast color. You do a third round in another contrast color, and then you do rounds 4 and 5 in your main color. Okay, that was square A. Square B, you do rounds 1 and 2 in your main color. You do rounds 3 in a contrast color. You do round 4 in a different contrast color, and then you finish back with your main for your final round. So what that does is, if you're using, I'm going to show you the colors I'm using here. So here are my contrast colors that I'm using. And then I'm using this charcoal gray as my joining color or my main color. So this will be the color that finishes every round and then joins them in addition. What having 2 different squares does, it allows the color to disperse a little more evenly. So you have your main color dispersed not just on the outer edges, but on some squares it comes in on the center. And it allows your contrast colors not just in the center pieces, but to extend a little further into the squaring off. If you don't like that, if you like one more than the other, you could do all of your squares like this. You could do all of your squares like this. There was one person on Ravelry who did all of their squares like this. They did round 1 in one color, switched to another color for round 2, and then use their main color for 3, 4, and 5. So all squares are the same size. You could do a combination of these. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do is fine. It's yours. The pattern gives you a list of, given for your size, how many squares you need to make. If you are just starting, know that I've worked with a couple people this week who were trying to play with gauge. We adjusted yarn, we adjusted hook size, and it still was a little bit on the loose side. In that they just didn't like the fabric. But to go down a hook size wasn't going to make any more sense. It just didn't work that way. So another thing that you can do, which is one of the nice things about crochet, is after your very first round, which is done in single crochet, all of the other rounds are done, except for the final round, which is half double crochet, are done in double crochet. If you find that your square is too big, but you like the fabric of it, you like the way it's going to drape, that it doesn't look too loose, it's just too big, given your tension, you could change one of these rounds or two of these rounds to half double crochets, which would make the stitches shorter, which would bring your sides in more. Okay. If you need your square to be bigger, I recommend doing just another round of half double crochet around the ending to make it bigger. So if you're having trouble, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm happy to work with you on making your squares work for you. Okay. Let me switch over to the camera. So tonight I'm going to show you a little bit about layout, and I'm going to show you how to make the half square and the 3/4 square. And just like I did for the first one, change the pattern just a little bit, just to keep it in line with what we did with square A and square B. Okay, so let me see if there's anything else on my notes. Let me share my screen. Okay. And let me make that big. Okay. So eventually you're going to have all these squares made, and you may have them made before our next class. What you can do is you can start laying them out and deciding on your pattern, mixing them up with your, let's see, what did I do with this? Square A, here we are, square A and square B. And getting a distribution of color. Oh, those are the same. I want that in there. So you can start to lay things out a little bit if you want to. And what you can start to do on one of the pages of your pattern, and I believe it is page 4. Just going to real quick, I'm going to get in trouble with the designer. She does give you some layout options, and she gives you a key for what all of the pieces are. So the different squares are different types of squares, half squares, square A, square B, for the different sizes. So you can find the one for the size you're doing. And then this is the whole sweater laid out. Here is the shoulder seam. This is where it would fold over. Here's where your neck goes. Here's a sleeve, here's a sleeve, here's a front, here's a back. So you can see how it's all going to lay out. So if you get done, you could start to follow either one of those patterns or make your own and start joining them together with stitch markers, like the little ball ones, the light bulb ones, or safety pins. We like the coilless or the coiled safety pins, or even these stitch markers. And you can start, if you've got enough squares done, and you want to start doing your layout, you can start doing your corners together. And the reason I say this is because there's going to be one more round that joins, but you can start to get an overall idea of how big this is going to be before we start to join, so that you could maybe we have to adjust how many rows that you do. Okay. So I'm leaving a little bit of a gap here, which will account for my joining row. I would say maybe a quarter, no more than half an inch. I would leave in between there. And you could start to join them together, and then we can measure and see how big it's getting or how big it's not getting, okay? She talks about in her pattern that the first top that she made for her daughter, who she knew was going to be growing. So when she did the joining, she purposely did not join the bottom round of, I believe they were half squares. She joined those last. And then as her daughter got taller, she could easily take out, because she knew they were joined separately than the rest of them, she could snip the yarn and she could remove all of those half squares, which will look like this, or whatever squares she had at the bottom. She could take them out, put in full size squares, and make the overall thing longer, okay? So if you're and somebody in class this morning is making it for a granddaughter. So keep that in mind, that you can do it that way if you want to, okay? That there are options when it comes to joining, and we're going to talk more about that next month. But if you're not sure, err on the side of maybe not making too many squares, and start to lay it out first, and then you can decide, ooh, I really want some more reds, or I really want some more whatever, and you can go from there, okay? So for layout, that's where I would say is enough to start. Next month, we'll, fingers crossed, I'll have all my squares done, and I'll be able to do a full layout, and I'll show you how to measure, and we'll talk about the neckline, we'll talk about the edging. Next month is going to be a full class. But don't feel like it has to be done next month either. So have as many as you can have done, so you can practice some of the joining as well. Okay, so today I'm going to demonstrate how to make, for this pattern, a 3/4 square, which looks like a square pizza with a slice taken out, and a half square. The downside to these two squares is it's nearly impossible to go over your ends. So you are going to have some ends to weave in on these squares. I've previously shown you how I have slip stitched when I finish around, and then I go over my ends. So all of these ends are ready to just be trimmed off. I don't have to weave them in. The ones on these, you have to weave them in, because you are not working in the round. You have to cut at one end and start at the other again, okay? So, but luckily there's not as many of these squares that we have to do. All right, I have my hook. Let me pull up the pattern in front of me, and let me show you how, tell you how I've made some changes for the half square and then the 3/4 square. It's joining. Let me join in. I really want to get to the edging. Makes it look so cute. Ah, right in front of me. All right. Here we go. Half square. So the half square, there is a half square A and a half square B. Depending on your size, you may not have to do any of half square A, which means all of your half squares will start with the main color and end with the main color. Everybody's got to make half square Bs, okay? So I'm going to, it's the same directions in the pattern. She does not rewrite them the way she did for square A and square B. For the half square B, she just says for this half square, work the same as A, but start with the main color, switch to 2 different contrast colors for rounds 3 and 4, and then work round 5 with your main color. So I'm going to work it as a half square A, because I have to make one, but just so that it's easy to see, but look that you're going to be doing some as A and some as B. Okay. And then we'll go on to the 3/4 square. All right. Share my screen. All right. Okay. So for this square, she has you starting with a contrast color and doing a slip knot on your hook and chaining 2, which I'm going to show you. This is the same way she told you to do the regular square, is that she does a chain and then joins in the round for that. There we go. So she has you chaining 2 and then going back and doing stitches into the first chain. You can absolutely do it that way. You can also still do it magic ring. So I'm going to demonstrate the magic ring because that's just what I prefer. And if you remember, when we did the full, when we did the full square, we did 8 single crochets into our magic ring. And since we are doing a half square, we're only going to put 4. Now, somebody asked me this morning, and I don't remember because I didn't have a chance to go back and watch the video. I don't remember if I told you to chain 1 here or not. I find it's easier to find my single crochet if there we go. I find it's easier to find my single crochet if I've done a chain 1 first, but you don't have to. Okay. And now I'm going to do 4 single crochets into my ring. 1, 2. While I'm doing this, have a pencil ready so that you can make notes on your pattern. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is my chain 1. It's kind of folded underneath, but it makes my first single crochet kind of pop up a little bit. Now, I've not really filled a whole ring. What I've made is half of a circle. I can tighten this up. And it's not going to pull them all the way around. It's going to mostly just stay kind of flat like this. All right. So round 1, 4 single crochets into either the first chain or into your magic ring. She has you loosely chain 1 and then turn. I will tell you, in this square and in the 3/4 square, you will turn this over only between rounds 1 and round 2. It's the only time you're going to flip it over and work back across your stitches. The rest of the time will be staying on the right side. Instead of loosely chaining 1, I'm going to chain 3. And I'm going to let the chain 3 count as my first double crochet. So I did my 4 singles into my magic ring, chain 3, turn it over, and now I'm going to be working across into these single crochets. That is the end of round 1. Round 2, 2 double crochets in it and a chain 1 into each of these stitches, ending with a total of 8 double crochets. Well, since this is my first, my chain 3 is acting as a double crochet, I just need to put 1 more double crochet in the first single there, and then finish with a chain 1. So now I've got 2. A chain 3 counts as 1, and here's my second. When you have turned it over like this, it is really easy to miss, or I should say it's hard to get under both legs of the top of the stitch here. So it's really easy just to catch one loop, which like that, which will tilt your work. So do make sure that you are yarning over, and let me tilt it for you, going underneath both legs of that single crochet. I'm going to do 2 doubles in this stitch and a chain 1. And I have 2 more to do. 2 doubles. 1 and 2. And a chain 1. And then 2 in the very last single there. 1 and 2. Now, we don't have any more stitches. So the pattern says 2 doubles and a chain 1 in each stitch. I really don't I can't make a chain 1. You can make a chain 1, but you're not chaining to anything else. You're not creating a chain space. Now I do chain 1, whoops, sorry, and cut my yarn and pull it through. So I do the chain 1, but I would do that anyway because that's how I pull through my yarn. Okay, so let me just show you what we've done so far. We started on this side and we did 4 singles into the magic ring, which I can now tighten a little. And then we turned it. We started with a chain 3 and did a second double crochet into the first stitch, and then we chained 1, 2 double crochets in the next stitch and a chain 1. There's my chain 1 space. 2 more doubles in the third stitch and a chain 1, and 2 doubles in the last stitch. So what you have at the end here is 8 double crochets or 4 double crochet clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you've got 3 chain spaces right here, and right here. Okay. Let me show this one because this is where we're headed. So we've done this part here. So this center chain space on this next round is going to become our corner. The half square only has 1 full corner, and it has 1 half corner here and 1 half corner here. But we'll only be making 1 full corner on the half square. All right, now that we've finished, here's where I cut my yarn. Instead of turning it over, I'm going to go back here to the beginning, to the top of the chain 3 with a new contrast color, and that's where I'm going to slip stitch to join. Let me put the yarn. The slip knot. That's a little longer. Okay. And if you put this down and come back to it, you're starting on the opposite side that my cut yarn is on. This is my tail from my either my chain 2 and join or my magic ring, but I'm starting on the opposite ends. You're going to end up having tails on both ends. All right, so here's the chain 3 that I started with. I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3. And I am looking at on your pattern, this is the sentence after round 2 before you start round 3. So pull through, slip stitch to join. And she has you loosely chaining a 1. Again, I'm going to chain 3 and count it as a double crochet. So I have that chain 3 coming out of this chain 3. Round 3 says double crochet 2 into the same space. Well, since I've already got one of my double crochets, I'm going to do 1 more into the same space. And what this acts as is half of a corner. If we were continuing on, there would be a chain 2 here and then 2 more doubles. But we're doing the second half of a corner here. Then I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to put 2 double crochets into the next chain space. So these stitches over here are actually in the top of a stitch, but my next are going to go into the chain space. So 2 doubles. And a chain one into the chain space. So now I'm up to the second chain space that's available. And this is where I'm going to put a full corner. So 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 doubles. Again, we are on round 3. Double. Double. Chain 2. The only time we do a chain 2 is in the corner. And I'm going to slide those stitches over so I have room to get 2 more doubles in here. 1 and 2. And then finish with a chain 1, which creates the space going over here. So now I have another space, 2 double crochets, and a chain 1. And then I'm going to put 2 double crochets in the top of my last stitch from the previous round, which is the other half of a corner on this side. Okay. So yarn over. Just going to go in. So it's not a space. You're actually going into the top of a stitch. 2 doubles. And again, I can't finish with a chain 1, but I don't think she actually says chain 1 on this part. Okay. So now I've cornered up my little half circle here. So we've ended. We should have a total of, I am going to finish with a chain 1 and pull it through. But I'm going to count before I cut my yarn and make sure I do in fact have 12 double crochets. So the chain 3 counts as 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. You should have 12 double crochets and 2 chain 1 side spaces on this side, 2 chain 1 side spaces on this side, and 1 chain 2 corner space. All right, so that's correct. I can trim the yarn and pull it through. So now you can see you've got ends, unfortunately, on both sides. And like I could like wrap this up and try to lay it across as I do the next row. It's really fiddly. I've tried it. I just feel like you're going to have to weave these away. Okay. You can certainly try that, but I found it a little cumbersome. Okay, so that was round 3. Now we're going to switch to our main color. So let's end here. And again, here's where I started. You're always going to have an extra end at the end of the row, an extra tail at the end of the row. So I know I've only got 1 on this side, so this is where I'm going to start because this is where it finished. So I'm going back to the beginning again. So you're still, staying on the right side of the work. We are not turning it over, except between round 1 and round 2, which is really hard to tell a right side from a wrong side on those little single crochets. All right, we're going to join main color, just like we did the previous row, into top of a chain 3. And if you can't get it into the top of the chain 3, try to get it into the top of the first actual double crochet. Here's what I don't recommend. Don't go into the little space between the chain 3 and the double. And I'll tell you why. Actually, I'll do it and you'll see why. If I were to go into there, slip stitch, and then do a chain 3. So I replace the chain 1 loosely with another chain 3, and then go in and make 1 more in there and end with a chain 1. And then I go into the next space and put my 2 double crochets and a chain 1. And you'll probably see why it's not a good idea. So what that does is it really separates these and it throws off the balance. We really want these two double crochets to stay together. And by putting the stitch in the little space created between them, it really separates them and makes it look a little wonky, okay? I'm going to pull that back to my chain, do my chain 3 again. And I'm the first to admit, getting into the top of a chain 3, getting into the top of any just plain chain stitch, I think is not the easiest thing. So if you can't do that, put it in the top of the double right next to it. And remember, when you're working on the right side, let me put this out here. Right here, this little hole right here is the top of this first double crochet. It is always slightly to the right. The top of the chain 3 is 1, 2, 3. It's these 2 loops right here. And sometimes I really try to chain loosely, and sometimes I can do it, and sometimes I can't. There we go. Oh, almost. Here's a good example. I put it down a couple hundred times now. So let's make sure I've got my right side facing. And I do. Okay. Top of the chain 3, slip stitch to join, chain 3, and put another double in the same spot. I have found in this pattern, she often uses stitch and space interchangeably, and sometimes that's okay and sometimes it's not. So in the same space, she means in the same place, maybe is a better word. And we're going to chain 1. And we're going to do 2 doubles and a chain 1 in the next 2 chain spaces. So it's the same as the previous round, we just have more side spaces this time. And a chain 1. And into the next. And a chain 1. Now here's where I'm going to save you some anguish. I must have done this square half a dozen times. I could not get my stitch count to come out right. I could not figure out why. At the end of this, we're supposed to have 18 double crochets. Well, I have 2, 4, 6. If I were to put 2 more here, and then a chain 2 and 2 more, it would give me 8 on each side. 2, 4, 6, 8. I need 9 on each side. So if you look carefully, she says in round 4, when you get to the corner, double crochet 3, chain 2, double crochet 3, and chain 1 in the corner. So this is a little bit different. And I think she does this so that we can get the right stitch count when we get to the final round, so that the sides will match up evenly when we do the joining, okay? So there's 3, chain 2. So now I've done half of here. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'll do the same thing on this side, which gives me the 18. I ripped the sucker apart 14 times and could not figure out why I did not end up with 18 until I actually read all of the words in the pattern. So underline that on your pattern so you don't make the same mistake. It's so nice that she gives us the stitch counts. And then a chain 1. And then we'll do a 2 double crochet, chain 1 in the next 2 chain spaces. So and then here. chain one, chain one, chain one, and then to balance it out, you need to put 2 double crochets in the last stitch. So right here, what's sticking up is my chain one I finished with to pull my end through. The top of the left stitch is right, I'm sorry, the last stitch is right here. And I'll put 2 in there. 1, 2, chain one, and I can cut it and pull it through. Now, before I cut it and pull it through, I would double check my count. I do have 18 because now I've done it dozens of times. And she has a little highlighted section after round 4. You can fasten off here and we'll go back to the beginning and do our final round. Or if you want to save weaving in an end, which I chose not to do, you could chain one and turn and slip stitch all the way back to the beginning and do your final round. I felt like that was wasting a lot of yarn and was more time that I wanted to spend. I figured I could just weave in an end. So I chose not to do that, but please know that that is an option. All right, pull my end through. All right. And then my final round, I've got my magic ring tail. I've got 3 on this side, which is where I've ended. So I need to start over here where I just have the 2, still using the same color. On our final round, just like in our main squares, is doing a half double crochet in each stitch and each space. So start with a slip knot, join to the top of your chain 3, and this time, instead of chaining 1, we're going to chain 2. 1, 2, which is about the height of a half double crochet. So now you're going to do half double crochets in each stitch. Since this counts as a half double crochet, I can skip this one and I can go right into the top of the second double. All the way through, and then do one in the chain 1 space. We talked about that last month. You could go into the actual chain stitch, but it doesn't look different enough. And I think it's harder to find the actual chain than to just go in the chain space. Sometimes you'll have to move over when you go into this chain space because the top of your next stitch actually leans into the chain 1 space. But sometimes you got to move your stitch over a little bit to find it. 2. And when all is said and done here, we want to have 28 half double crochets, which means that I want to have 14 on each side. So I find myself stopping and counting before I finish the entire row to make sure that I'm going into I'm catching all of the correct stitches. And if you remember, in square A and square B, you do have 14 on each side of your square. So that will match up. Okay, so now I've done into the top of the 3 double crochets and into the corner space. I'm going to do 2 half doubles. Oops. 2 half doubles into the corner space. 1, 2, a chain 2, and then you're still going to do 2 half doubles. You're not going to just do 1 half double like we did in square A and square B. So I'm going to stop right there and do a quick check to see if I've got 14, because this is half of my. So here's my chain 2 I started with. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So give yourself a quick check. If you're wrong, if you're off, so figure out where you're missing something or where you're putting too many into, okay? Before you continue on, because then you're just doing the same thing down the other side. So I've done the chain 2 for the corner, put 2 more half double crochets. 1, 2, and this one you really will have to move it over, because there's the top of my stitches right there for the next. There we go. Half double. And there's the next one. So remember, I've got 3 here. And then the space. And then 2. 1, 2. And space. 1, 2. And space. Over so I can see my last stitch. And I'm going to chain 1 and cut my yarn. Okay, so that is a corner, a half square, I should say. And if I were to lay it on top of a full square, it's pretty darn close. Pulls a little bit differently, but it should fit. It should be half of a square. And it should have 14 half double crochets on each side of the corner chain 2, okay? Which is what we have here as well. That is the half double. Are there any questions about the half double? I'm sorry, the half double, the half square. So this was half square A. If you're going to do half square B, you make it the exact same way, except you start with your main color, and then you do rounds 1 and 2 in the main color. Then you switch, round 3 is a different color, round 4 is a different color, and then you finish with your half double crochets back in your main color.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the inner part, the part that's on the bottom there, that's the part that's going to attach to your sweater?
So it's going to be used in a couple of different ways. It may be used for some shaping around the neck, and it may be used for some shaping around the bottom. It depends on your particular size.
Okay.
Okay. So this edge isn't going to have anything on it. There will be, I tried to look ahead. I think where this gets added is we're going to end up picking up along for a neckline here.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Right, which is why it's not finished on that end.
Okay.
Yeah, and the same thing's going to happen with our 3/4. We're going to have a pie cut out. I think this also finishes like over a shoulder to help create some shaping.
Okay.
And it is also unfinished. That's a really good question. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so based on your size, you're either making 0 or up to 9 of these in square A. In half square B, you're making anywhere from 8 to 20. So it just depends on your particular size. If you are, I would practice while this information is fresh and make a couple. And then maybe go back to finishing your other squares and start doing your layout so that you can decide if you want where these fit in, if you want more of this style or this style. And if we have to adjust your sizing, you can always go back and make more of these. But practice while the information is fresh, but maybe don't make all of them, is going to be my guess. I'm not making any more right now. I'm going to wait till I finish all of my other squares and then figure out what I need to, how many I actually need to finish it off. Because I think I'm going to have to do some adjusting on my size. Okay. 3/4 square. So here's where the pattern for me got a little interesting. She says this 3/4 square is written as in the picture to the left on your pattern as a square B, which means that it starts with the main color and ends with the main color. You can change the color order to contrast color, main color, like a square A. All sizes make 2 only of these. Well, if you look above that, it says you make like only 2 sizes make 2 of those. The other 2 sizes make 6. So it's a little unclear to me there if you need to have 2 in a square A version or if that's just your preference. So again, I'm only going to make a couple and see where they fit. And then I'll make more later after I've gotten my layout started. That's just how I'm going to do it because it just didn't quite make sense. It depends on your size, how many you may or may not need, depending on how you do your layout. Okay. But I would do it while it's fresh, or you can come back and watch the video later if you want to go back to just doing your squares. All right, so let's work through and you can write on your pattern for the 3/4 square. Again, I'm going to follow it as it is written. So I'm going to start with my main color, just so that I'm not tripping over my words so much. So you start with your main color. I'm going to do it magic ring again. And since this is a 3/4 square, we're going to put 6 single crochets into our magic ring. If you choose to do the slip knot on your hook and chain 2, you'll put 6 single crochets into the first chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Again, this is another place where we're going to end up having to turn it because this is row 1 or round 1. And we have to turn it over just between round 1 and round 2, just like we did with the half square. Just getting my yarn stitch for everything. So I've got 6 single crochets. I haven't quite tightened this up. I am not going to loosely chain 1. I am going to chain 3. And I'm going to turn it over. And then it conveniently goes on to page 4. So round 2 is we're going to put 2 double crochets and a chain 1 into each stitch, ending up with a total of 12 double crochets. So I've already got a chain 3 as my first one. So I'll put 1 more in that first single crochet. Put 2 doubles and a chain 1. And I'll do that in each of these other 5 single crochets until I end up with this. Right, so here's my ring. So when you pull the magic ring, or when you finish, so I've got chain 3 and a double and a chain 1 space. So I should have 12. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And I finished over here. It should look like a pizza with a slice taken out of it. Okay. you should have these clusters and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chain one spaces. I'll open them up so you can really see. This time, instead of making, like we did for the half square, instead of making one full corner and kind of 2 half corners in these end stitches, we are actually going to end up making 3 full corners. So one here, we'll end up with 3 full corners. I'm sorry, 2 full corners and 2 half corners is how it ends up working. So you'll end up with 3 full corners, but this last one is split in half. Okay. That's all going to say that we're going to be making, instead of just 1 full corner, you're going to end up making 2. Okay. Okay, so I finished round 1 and 2. My tail is on the left. I know that's where I finished here. And now I'm going to move, I'm going to do the next round in a different contrast color. And then I'm going to do the following round in a different contrast color. And then I will finish it off in my main color. I'm going to switch to some coral here. And now this round, we're going to square it off and make our corners. So we just finished round 2. You're looking at your pattern. We are going to go to with a contrast color, to the top of the chain 3 that we started with, not the first double, because we did a chain 3 instead. And we are going to slip stitch to join. Open a little bit. And we're going to chain 3. One, two, four, seven. And again, we want to make sure this is separate from the chain space. So try not to split those two so that it doesn't look wonky next to the chain 1 space. So chain 3. And you are going to, hold on, I did have to change something earlier. I'm going to do 1 double crochet into the same space. I know I changed something in class this morning. I didn't know the thing. I'm going to chain 1. Okay. So this is half of a corner that we've just created. The second half of the corner. The other part would be over here. And we're going to do side. So 2 doubles and a chain 1 in this space. And now we're going to create a corner right here. So we're not going up to the center square, we're going to the second actual chain space. And in this one, and I double checked, it's 2 double crochet, a chain 2, and 2 double crochet, not 3. Because we've got more partial corners, it makes our stitch count look out okay. We don't need the chain 3. I'm sorry, the 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 1. So we've got half a corner here. We've created a corner here. Let's make another side space. 2 doubles and a chain 1 here. And now we're going to make another corner space here. 1, 2, chain 1, 2, and 2 doubles. 1, 2, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, and then 2 in the last top of the last stitch. which is like the first half of a new corner without the chain two space. Okay. So when you're done, I'm gonna cut this. No, I should really count first. We should have 18, I believe, double crochets. So we should have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. With 2 chain 2 spaces for our corners and chain 1 spaces everywhere else. All right, so that works. And oops. So to put it on. So you can see we've done half of this corner on this side and half the corner on this side. And 2 full corners up here. Okay. So that completes round 3. We're going to switch to another contrast color. To do round 4. I know where it is. Right. I'm gonna go back here to the side that only has 1 tail. That's where I start. Top of my chain 3. So you could obviously you can do this kind of thing with any kind of granny style, granny hexagon, a granny circle by staying on the right side. You just have a lot of ends. You don't have to do complete ones, but you just have a lot of ends to weave in this way. And we're going to chain 3. So we are now on round 4. So instead of loosely chaining 1, I chain 3. And we're going to put 1 double crochet in the same space. And then round 4, chain 1. And we'll make our sides, oops, sorry, we'll make our side spaces here. Chain 1, another side space. So chain 1. Now I've reached a corner. So 2 doubles. Chain 2. 2 more doubles, all in the corner space. Finish with a chain 1. Do the same thing with these next 2 side spaces. Two, chain 1. Two, chain 1. I'm at another corner. Two, and 2. Tails getting 2, chain 1. I've got a little audience outside my window. Two. Yeah. And then 2 more in the last stitch. Do a real quick count. I should have 24. So 2, 4, 6, 8, I'm sorry, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 double crochets. Keeping my 2 chain 2 corner spaces and chain 1s in between. All right, so let's cut that. And then our final round. Back to our main color. And this is where we're going to put half doubles in each stitch and each space, just like we did on the final round of our half square. Now, what's a little different in this one is she says to join your main color to your first double crochet from round 4 or chain 3, which I'm going to do. And normally on round 5, it says 2 half double crochets in the same space. Normally I would chain that. I would change that. Let's go. Normally you only have 1 in each, but because this is half of a corner, we do in fact have to put 2 half doubles in the same space. Usually you're just putting 1 half double in each stitch around. So I'm going to chain 2 for my half double, and I'm going to put another half double in the same space. Okay, so you're just going to add 1 more half double. Your chain 2 counts as 1 into the same space. And then I'm going to put another half double in the top of the next stitch, which is right here. And into the next space. And into the next stitch. And into the next stitch. And into the space. Remember, you have to, the top of the stitch leans into the space just a little. So ultimately what I want to have happen is I still want to have my 14 half doubles on each side. Put 2 in the corner. 2 and chain 2, and let's see where I am. So if I've done this correctly, I should have 14. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you do have to have 2 half doubles in this first stitch, just like we've done the previous rows. Usually you don't have to put 2 half doubles in the same stitch, but because this is technically part of a corner, we do need the 2 in order to make our side count work out. Okay, so that side's correct. So now I'm going to put 2 more to finish off this corner. Yeah, it's about to be tangled. Hold on 1 sec. So not 3, it's just the 2. Slide that over so you can see the top of your stitch. Oh, I was doing doubles, wasn't it? Oops. Half doubles. I love half doubles. I think they're so neat and compact. They make a nice square shape. Their height and their width is roughly the same. And I like that. They just go faster because you don't have that extra yarn over. Another round. space. And then coming up on my next corner, I'm gonna do a quick count. Although I know I seem to be putting them all in the right space, so you don't have to count every time. 1, 2, but it will save you pulling back if you're unsure. So I'm gonna start from, here's my chain 2. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Ooh, I have 15. Hey, let's go back and actually read the pattern. This is back where we're supposed to only do 1 half double in that corner. Crap. I even had it underlined. All right. So 2 doubles, 2 half doubles, a chain 2, only put 1 half double, just like we did on our full size squares. When we did those half doubles, we put 2 half doubles and then 1 half double, because the next half double really leans in and it keeps the corners from being too bulky. Since these are full corners, we only do the 1. So that's why I was 1 stitch over. So it's a good idea to count on occasion. And then I'll put those stitches back. So while I'm finishing up this round, does anybody have questions on this 3/4 square? It's a lot easier than you think. It's just annoying to have those ends to read in. One, 2 half doubles. 1. Now let's make sure I have that right. So I have 1 in this corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Perfect. And then you finish up the same way. Chain 2, chain 2, and 1 half double, and then the next stitch. Space. And 1. And then you are going to put 2 in the last stitch. Just like we started with 2, you're going to put 2 in the last stitch. 2 half doubles. Again, you should have 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I only have 13. Let's see where I messed up this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, I didn't put 1. No, I did. I put 1 there. 1, 2, I put 1 here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, so maybe I was supposed to be 13. I should really have 14. One half double in each stitch to the last stitch, 2 half double in the last stitch and fasten up. What did I mess up? Sure. Let's just count ahead again. Put 1 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, That only works out to be 13. What have I done wrong? Anybody see it? That's making me crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Mhm, 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 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Huh. Well, that's gonna bother me. Did I do it wrong last time? Let's see what I did last time. Maybe I didn't even count in class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I only have 13. Mystery.
What should you have? 14?
I think I should have 14 because what's 14 times 3? 42?
Yes.
So we should have 42. But I don't. I have 41. Huh.
Is it the corners?
It's got it. If this side worked out, it starts with 2 and ends with 2. This starts with 1 and ends with 2. This starts with 1. It's almost like we need an extra there.
You know, it does say 2 half double crochets in the last stitch.
Which I did do.
Okay.
I did 1 here, and then I did 2 in the end, just like we had 2 in the beginning. I'm going to have to ponder this, and I'll have to post something. Maybe that is
It could be a typo.
it could
An
be
error in your count.
right. Okay, so stay tuned for that. I'll see what I can figure out, and I will post it on this page, on this where I'm posting the video. I didn't count this morning. That's weird. Ultimately, is 1 stitch as we're joining going to make a difference? Probably not.
Nope.
So I'm going to try to figure out an answer because it should work. And if it doesn't work, if it's an error in the pattern, then that's good to know. Yeah. Well, there you have it. So we're going to put that one to the side. We'll stop sharing that. That's the 1/2 and the 3/4, almost. Any other questions other than why that didn't work?
Nope.
Okay. So here's your, we went a little bit over, but not too bad. Here's the marching orders for next month. Finish as many grannies as you can. I don't know does anybody done with their grannies yet? I like the
I just got the pattern today.
nice, excellent. So what we may end up taking an extra month. We'll just see how it goes. Because I have a project for the next one, but it doesn't have to happen. We could keep working on this. So work and try to get as many of your square A and square B and some halves and some 3/4 done, so that next time we have enough to start thinking about a layout, and I can show you how the joining goes and how the neck, and you can look at the neck options, and that will give me time to read through all of the things that she's added to the pattern. And I can share that with you next time also, and I'll figure out hopefully the best way to join. But you also need to think about if you're going to be doing long sleeves or short sleeves and what style neck. So know what you kind of want to aim for next time. And I'm going to start joining or practicing with the joining to see how my overall size works and work out some adaptations between this time and next month, if we need to. If in the meantime you have questions or you come up with a problem, call or come in or email. And if we need to do like just a Zoom just to show something, we can absolutely do that anytime if you're not close or local. So we would love it. I'm going to stop recording here.